Hello and welcome. It is Marilyn Devonish here, creator of the Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I also have with me via voice audio, so you cannot see her beautiful face at the moment, but the wonderful Gina Batt. Gina, do you just want to say hello?
Hello, one and all. Welcome.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So what we're going to be doing today is, I know there are people here who have attended the Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest. We also have people register who have not attended the workshop at all. So for those of you who might be wondering what on earth is MBS, I'm going to take you through a little bit of the background and how the event actually came to being and why it came into being. We're also going to take you through a whistle-stop tour and journey through the ages. The first one we ran in 2011. So just to give you a flavor of the kinds of things we do and what we cover. And then we're going to transition into looking at some of the influences that have been around for this year, looking at what's coming up for next year. Gina's also going to do some a bit of kind of tuning in and clairvoyance just to kind of set the scene, and then we're going to close off with an angel tarot card reading, and we're going to do some Huna energy clearing. For those of you who are joining us live, there is a chat room which people are starting to find, and when you kind of log into the webinar, you'll see the chats. If you have questions, if you have queries, if you have anything that you want to share during the webinar, feel free to put it into the chat, and I will kind of cycle back and have a look at that later. So in terms of the two people that you'll be hearing from today, that's me, you might have guessed, Marilyn Devonish, and my guest is Gina Batt, and she has been my guest, Clairvoyant and Psychic, on many of my workshops. Gina, I think I've started dragging you in about, 12, 15 years ago now. And I say dragging because she wasn't a willing participant at first. It wasn't really her thing, but hopefully now, Gina, you do love it.
I do. I absolutely adore it. Thanks to you.
So that's who you're going to be hearing from today. And we are also the facilitators for the Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest workshop. And so just to give you a little bit of background in terms of how this came about, I had a really bad year in 2011, which actually, truth be told, started around about 2009, but it really kind of came to a head in 2011. In terms of that was a time when what you would call the recession hit. So a load of contracts just disappeared pretty much overnight. And I went from having, a funnel that was full for 14 months to like zero. And also that was the time I had a family member who was dying from cancer and then, subsequently died that year. And I just woke up one morning in the November of 2011. I'm like, man, that was not a good year. And I was just sitting, just talking to myself and saying, what can I do to ensure that next year is a much better year? And that was it. I just, put the thought out there into the ether. I wasn't particularly, and for those of you who work with me, there's a lot of synchronicity and stuff that happens. So I'm now happy to put things into the ether. And so just kind of left it as a question. That night, woke up at 3:30 in the morning. The voice in my head said, you need to work on your mind, your body, your spirit, and your soul. I was like, cool, I can do that. And so I then started, and my brain was like, yeah, I know you're brilliant, and I know you can do that. And you can't be the only one who's feeling like this. So what about getting people who specialize in some of those areas to come and join you? And why don't you run a workshop this year? And I'm like, dude, it's November, right? And there's not much of the year left. But then my brain started saying, well, we could do this and we could do that. And so I, switched on the light, I've always got a sketch pad handy, which is always full of, mind maps. So pretty much got the sketch pad, put together a mind map, and I was then going to go back to bed. By now it's about, 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. And my brain was like, where do you think you're going? I was like, to bed. It was like, well, you could create this as an event. Go and put it into Eventbrite and think about who you'd like to invite to speak. And immediately I already knew that Gina was one of the people I'd have to invite. And so I sat down, put it all into Eventbrite in terms of, translating the mind map into words. And then I basically sat for 2.5 hours waiting until it was a decent enough hour to ring people up and go, do you want to do this thing with me? And we had 3.5 weeks, because this was November. We ran it the very first weekend in December. And in that 3.5 week period, I think we had 17 or 18 people, something like that, show up and join us.
We did indeed.
And we had even had a couple of people flying from Europe, which was lovely. And so we ran that very, very first event. And to say it was amazing would be an understatement. We then decided to run it for the second year. So I went round the room and I was saying, you know, why are you here? What do you want to know? What do you want to learn? What would you like to take away? Which is how I always start my workshops. First person I asked, they've been there the year before, and they said everything that I worked on last year came true. So I'm back for more of the same. I was like, oh, that's wonderful. I went to the second person. They said, I was hardly here last year. Everything I worked on came true. So I'm here for more of the same. I was like, fantastic. Went to the next person. By the time the fifth person said it, I'm like, this is insane. Because I had no idea. The people, you know, there were a couple of people we'd kept tabs on because they did the Power of Three program, which was I think the first time we offered it, Gina, we did a 3-month program, didn't we?
Indeed.
Yes, we did 3 months first time, and then second time we offered the option of spreading it out a bit more. But so I kept tabs on the people who had done that. So I'd already seen how much their lives had changed. But it was a complete surprise that everyone who'd been there the year before had had these miraculous things happen for them. And, you know, the things that have unfolded over the years, just to give you a bit of an example, one of the guys who came along said he wanted to be mortgage free. I met him at the Best You show, what would have been last year now. That's exactly what's happened for him. So that was really wonderful. Someone else said they wanted to experience deep love and be in a relationship. In all the years I've known him, he'd been unhappily single. And that's exactly what happened. And in fact, he came back the following year and brought his partner with him, and he stood up for the group and did a presentation about, you know, the changes he'd made and, you know, what he'd done on the Power of Three program. So that was really, really lovely. And some of you might have even seen the video of Amana, who was on the very first workshop that I ran back in 2011, and she sat in that room. I still get goosebumps when I think about it, and I can see exactly where she was sitting in my mind. And she said, I think I want to go to Saudi or Dubai and teach English. At this point, she'd never been to Saudi. She'd never been to Dubai. She didn't have the relevant teaching qualifications. She's a black woman with dreadlocks like myself. So Saudi and Dubai might not be the first place you might think of going. Within 6 months, she was gone. Everything she said came true. And it was this case of these wonderful cascading synchronicities where she realized there was a college that was very close to where she worked, but she went and the course was already closed. But it just so happens the course director was walking past and said, are you okay? She explains why she was there. The course director says, well, actually, I might be able to squeeze you on. She then turns up on the course a couple of weeks later, sits next to someone, or no, there was an empty chair. The woman sits next to her. They strike up a conversation. Turns out this woman's husband works over in Saudi. So she then says, well, what do you want to do? Amana tells her, she says, well, my husband might be able to help you. So Amana, I distinctly remember, it was a Sunday, she phones me up. She says, Marilyn, I've just done an interview by Skype, camera off. She's got the same hair as me, obviously her own individual version, and so she's got a towel on her head because she just washed her hair, and when your dreads are wet, it's a lot. So she's got this water dripping down. She's doing this interview. She gets the job. She then thinks, what am I going to do with my house? She then is going round to say goodbye to people. One of the people she meets up with says, do you remember last year I said I was going to start a business and I was going to start a letting agency? Amana says yes. And the woman says, would you like to be my first client? Within a week, the house is let. So it was just this wonderful cascading. And since then, it's unfolded even further because one of her big goals was moving out to America to be with her children. That's exactly where she is now. Ashley says, holy crap. That was the workshop I was on in 2011. Absolutely. And Ashley, you might recall when she sat there and she spoke those words and says, I think I'm going to want to go and work and teach in Saudi or Dubai. So it's just been absolutely incredible over the years. And, you know, consistently, you can see a couple of the feedback forms here. It scored 11 out of 10. Somebody scored it 100 out of 10 and says, you know, it's for them. It's kind of out of this world and unmissable. So we've had some really amazing times. And that's wonderful. Aisling says, yes, she does remember when Amana says that. Absolutely. So, you know, dreams have really come true as a result of this. And so what we're going to be doing on this webinar, first I'm going to give you a tour through the ages. So for those of you who have never encountered Mind Body Spirit Energy Fest, I want to give you a flavour of what it is we do, and also just share with you some of the tools and techniques, and give you a kind of an experience, because I said it's going to be an experiential day today, so I want you to have an experience of being with us in the room. And then to round off the webinar, we're going to do a recap of the energetic influences for 2018. Gina's going to look at the numerology and just kind of tell you a bit about the numbers and the energy for 2019. She's going to give you a brief insight into the year ahead, and also just to say, for those of you who have if you'd like a written channeled clairvoyant reading, because Gina does them all individually for every single person, you have to have booked by tomorrow, because obviously we need a window of time for her to be able to sit down and do the channeling and writing them up, and a copy of your soul plan report. And for those of you who've already got your soul plan report from previous years, I've got something lined up for you, but I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. And I'm also then going to do an angel tarot card reading, for kind of rounding off the year. And as I said, we'll close with some Huna. One of the things I'm going to ask you to think about, so that it's starting to percolate in your mind as I take you on a journey through MBS, is to just kind of set your permission meter to be open to receive whatever is for your greatest and highest good. So if there's something that we share, if there's something that we do and you think that's not for me, thank you very much, then that's absolutely fine. Let it pass you by. However, for those things that you think, I like that sounds amazing, I would love to do that, then give yourself permission to receive that. And I would also say, set your purpose and intention. So what would you like to get from this webinar? And start thinking about that, and really go with the flow, because there might be things that we're talking about here that you've never heard of, that are new for you. And so I would just say, have an open mind and go with it. Annika says, permission meter, go for it 100%. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm not kidding you. It's those little tiny things that can make such a massive difference. And Gina, I know that you are also very big on permission. So do you want to say anything about that before we move on?
Very briefly, permission allows access, not just for universal energy, but your own energy to receive. When we don't ask permission, what tends to happen is all our walls, all our barriers come up. And that then makes it harder for you to create what you want, because you haven't said, yes, universe, I'm open for this, willing and happy to allow things to happen. So from my perspective, permission is very, very, very important. And I don't do anything without permission. So even the channelings, I have to ask permission before I can sit down and do them. So otherwise, I just get nothing in my head. And that's really frustrating when you try to do a tune-in. So go on, share, go on, share. And then that's always a reminder to me, did you get permission? And I write in my diary, or whenever I'm booking somebody in, I put a yes, P, which means yes for permission.
Brilliant.
So, easy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'd say that's a really big part of it. Really big part of it. So the permissions is definitely a key thing. So in terms of that, I'm going to ask you to start thinking about, what would you like to know? What would you like to learn? What would you like to take away from this introductory webinar? Number two, what would make this kind of, valuable and worthwhile use of your time and an amazing experience? And also just start thinking about, for you, in the coming year, because I don't know, you might be listening to this in a year's time. So in terms of whatever the coming year is for you, what would be a big wow? What would be something that if it were to happen, you go, oh my God, that is amazing. So, for the previous attendee saying he wanted to experience deep love, for Amana saying she wanted to live and work in Saudi, for someone else saying that they wanted to have a complete change of career, all of which has, happened. Just start thinking about, what would that wow be for you? Because as we go through the experience of MBS, there may be something that Gina shares or something that I share, and you go, oh my God, that's the thing that could help me to create what I want in the year ahead. So just kind of be thinking about that as well. Now, for those of you who I have not met, because I know there were names on the list that I didn't recognize, as I said earlier, just in case you missed the beginning, if you're joining us live, my name is Marilyn Devonish. I had a very traditional background, did a business studies degree, did a postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, was studying to be a chartered accountant, but I was also very quiet and very shy. So there's no accidents, but it seemed like I accidentally signed up for a personal development training, and when I realized what I'd signed up for, because it included NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and something called HUNA, that was so outside of my sphere of awareness. I actually tried to get a refund. Because I said, this isn't what I've signed up for. And they wouldn't give me a refund, but said, come to the training. If you don't get massive value, and I was thinking, blah, blah, blah. If you don't get massive value, we'll give you a refund. And as you can see from the list before you, the rest, as they say, is history. Because not only did I become a practitioner, a master practitioner in NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy, I then went on to do my trainer's training in all of those disciplines as well, became a life and certified executive coach. And you name it in terms of modalities. I'm probably qualified in about, I've lost count now, but probably about 20 different modalities in terms of being a trainer or a practitioner. Everything from EFT and DNA theta healing, Hawaiian Huna, emo trance, archetypal profiling, access consciousness, soul plan reading, angel tarot, it's all in there. And in amongst it all, it's things like the Prince 2 project management, because I still love that side of things as well. And I also work as a freelance writer and, a kind of seminar speaker, keynote speaker. One of the things I also do, which absolutely love, is kind of write on the subject of emotional health and well-being. So started writing for newspapers and magazines back in 2003. So that definitely kind of honed your skill. You've got to get an idea across in 500 words, which isn't very much, but anything to do with emotional health and well-being, and other topics besides. Often write for accountancy magazines and that sort of thing as well. But one of the things I do, and for me, it has always been about transformation. Started off with mind transformation, because that's where my personal journey started. And over the years, it has then transitioned into looking at aspects like the soul and the spirit, and also the physicality of the body, because part of my journey started with illness as well, and using these techniques and methodologies to overcome that. And so the kind of first book I co-authored was with people like Tony Robbins and Paul Shealy, the now late Dr. Wayne Dyer, Brian Tracy, and Chun-Yi Lin, who does Spring Forest Qigong. So it's been quite a journey, and that journey started for me in October 2000, and that is actually where Gina and I met. So it's been quite an eclectic journey, and one of the reasons I am so certain about transformation, and I'm so certain and solid in terms of my belief in personal development, is because what you see on the screen before you was my profile right up until the age of 32. I was very quiet, I was very shy, lacking in confidence, very low self-esteem. I could barely even talk to my own family. So the thought of speaking in public would just be like, forget about it. And that is why I know that it is absolutely possible to change and transform. I was also in a position where I was needing to sleep 12 to 15 hours a day just to drag myself through the day. And people who know you now will tell you, I probably sometimes, well, actually last night is a perfect example, but I often sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. I went to bed at 6 o'clock this morning. So having been up, having late night dance breaks and, writing stuff and creating stuff and, putting my Black Friday photo reading page together and all that sort of stuff. But to have lived my life as the person you see before you on the screen in terms of that profile, and then to see how much it has changed, that is the thing that allows me to know that change and transformation is possible. And I started, I would say, from a negative base in terms of the illnesses that I had. I was even in my 20s diagnosed with what was thought to be early onset Alzheimer's. I now teach photo reading and accelerated learning, and have been since March 2002. So I know that change is possible. Thank you, Annika. Brilliant. So there might be another little key that I need to hit with regards to that. That is marvelous. Thank you. So Gina, over to you in terms of, tell us a bit about yourself, and I will transition us through your journey while you're speaking.
Thank you. my psychic journey started when I was 3. I would see things, feel things, be aware of things, even things like the front page of a newspaper between 2 and 4 weeks prior to it happening. And for a youngster, particularly around 12, 13, it was quite scary. But I don't know any different. So for me, chatting to my team is something I've done all my life. Also, at a very early age, I had a desire to perform. I love acting, anything to do with singing, dancing. And I still to this day have connections to dancers. In actual fact, we've just done Blackpool, and one of the dancers I worked with came 4th in her ballroom and 2nd in the Latin. And this is throughout the United Kingdom. So she's top out of about 4,000 dancers, which is quite an achievement. So love doing all of that. Another aspect of favourite of mine was 17 pantomimes, and doing fairy in a pantomime is got to be the best, because it's all about the magic, and it's all about creating the illusion for children to buy into and adults to buy into. I also did a lot of choreography for fashion shows. So anything that allows people to do the best of what they want for themselves and to help others do that too, that's really where my heart lies. Oh my goodness, yes, some very early stuff with me. The picture of me on the horse, I was 14 when I did that.
Oh, really?
I was 14 years of age. And that is Sleeping Beauty. And we had Michael Aspel and a man called Jimmy Thompson, who did a television show called Pinky and Perky, which I think you'd probably have to look it up on YouTube, because I am of an age that I can remember it, and I think probably most people out there wouldn't.
Gina, I had the Pinky and Perky album.
You're kidding me.
Like the big disc, not was it the 40? What was the big one called? The 45, whatever it was. And we had the Christmas album, and we had a little gram where you'd have to put the penny on it to keep the thing down. But yeah, we had the Pinky and Perky Christmas album. It's one of my favorites.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jimmy Thompson, I did pantomime with him for 3 years running, and with Michael Aspel. So that was good fun. Do carry on. Yes. So these are a few of the people that I have worked with. In the top left-hand corner, Sir John Mills, God bless him. One of my favorite people to work with. He had the ability to peep through the curtain before the curtain went up, and he could guess the value and number of people in the auditorium when he couldn't actually see it because the lights were on the curtain, so we couldn't. But he was a lovely man, a wonderful actor, lovely person. Connie Booth too, worked with her in the West End. Michael, Bonnie Langford, Lulu. These are all, there's something about theatre people. They're very, very vulnerable and don't have a huge amount of self-belief. So they utilize characters to transform their lives. And that's what allowed me to come up with the game of life, in actual fact. That we all play roles throughout the day. We all have different personas for different things that we get into, whether it's you're going to work, whether it's I'm with the family, whether it's I just want to sit quietly on a beach, please leave me alone, I'm working on my tan, not a conversation. You can do anything and everything that you like, and I think that's been a massive impact for everyone that's come and joined us on MBS or any of the training courses that Marilyn has done, or that I have been allowed to come along and do a little presenting for.
And Gina, do you want to just tell us also a bit about your clairvoyant background as well, in terms of when and how that started for you?
Well, as I opened with, it's since I was 3 years of age. And over the years, I think probably I got to about 14, 15 years of age. And that's when channeling for global stuff used to come through. So the San Andreas fault, disasters that would happen. I can remember dreaming the Lockerbie, which was a Pan Am aircraft, blew up over Scotland. And for 3 months, I consistently dreamed that it was going to crash on the roof of my flat, which was a little bit disconcerting. I shared that with my father. And my father said, oh my God, your mother and I are flying to America on Pan Am. I'm going to switch airlines. The minute he switched airlines, I stopped having the dream. Interestingly enough, my parents would have been on the flight, but not when it took off to do its next leg to Germany. So from my perspective, sometimes having a connection to someone, the ability to read and see clearly, it elevates much, much stronger. And as I grew up and did theatre, I used to do readings for my fellow cast members and crew in various theatres up and down the country. So yes, it's because I've grown up with it, I don't know life without it. And it's very comforting, I think, to share with other people that we're never alone. Even when we feel alone, we're not. If you just voice out loud, I like to do it out loud, you can do it in your head if you like, but out loud, you send out a vibration that allows spirit to pick up on. And just a heads up in case they do start manifesting. And I did invite them and say that it was okay if they wanted to come and play with telephones. Very often there you go. My phones will play up. Now they might start talking to each other because I've got two different types of phones here. And spirit activity, when they get going, can get very noisy. There was one call that I had with a client last week, in actual fact, who I didn't realise wanted to tap into his parents. And the minute he said, "May I ask about mum and dad?" the phones just went absolutely nuts for about 10 minutes. And we did try and speak in between, but it was probably better to just wait and let them carry on. So yes, it's I love what I do, and I'm very blessed in that I can do what I love virtually every day. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your energy with us for future events. Like, do come and join us in December. We're going to have so much fun.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that, Gina. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a bit of a journey through MBS and just through some of the things that we've done. We're going to start where it all started, actually back in 2001. And Gina, this was the opening slide for the first workshop in terms of what we were doing for the day. So we were looking at, identifying what potentially sabotages you or keeps you stuck and gets in the way of your progress. We were looking at how you can get to the root cause of the issues rather than just doing surface level stuff, what I call sort of band-aiding. We were also looking at what can you do to actually resolve that old emotional baggage so you're not dragging it, through life. We started also to do elements of the transformation breakthrough process. And then we were looking at how you can clear old limiting beliefs, old negative emotions. So, some of the things that we did the following year, that's where we really thought, let's get more into working even more deeply with those areas. So, did a guided meditation that year, the following year, to kind of open up the heart energy. Gina was kind of doing clearing and releasing blocks with the kind of using the kind of spiritual energy, silver cord of life. And she'll talk to you about some of those things in a few minutes. We also did that speaker lunch where we were doing kind of transformation and energy work and the readings over lunch, which was huge amounts of fun, and also really started to get people about thinking about, living the dream. What is it they want to do? What is it they want to create? What do they kind of want to, have happen? And in terms of just some of the modalities we've used and played with, one of the things we always try to do, and it wasn't on purpose, it just so happened that there was always something new. So one year I had just qualified in access consciousness. Another year I had just done future life progression. Another year I had done the soul plan reading. Another year I'd done the soul transformation work and core issue therapy. And Gina was also, one year there were the spirit guide cards. Another year it was the game of life. So there's always kind of something new that happens. And of course, some of our old favorites. So Huna has been a part of it since the beginning. And Huna, for those who haven't come across it before, it's the ancient Hawaiian healing methodology, kind of working with energy, working with symbols, working with the higher self. And it's one of the most powerful ways that I know to clear old energetic blocks, whether someone is there in person or whether we're doing kind of remote energy clearing. So that's a really sort of, powerful process. Over the years, we've also one of the years we did the Ho'oponopono, because Ho'oponopono does go just beyond the words. And I always say the Book of Huna is that big and Ho'oponopono is 2 pages. And so we did the full version where you're using the stage and you're cutting the arc connections and all of that sort of thing. We did the access consciousness because I had some incredible things happen with my clients using that with regards to, and actually, Gina, you're one of those. Do you remember the day you were driving back from Birmingham from the dentist?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I actually thought it was a prank call because all I could hear is somebody crying. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, hello? And it's just like the sobbing. I was like, who the hell is this? Because I hadn't looked, I didn't see who the number was before I picked up. And then that's the thing where you said they lacerated your gums in trying to put the clamp on.
For 4 hours in the dentist chair, and they'd cut my mouth, the side of my mouth, my tongue, and inside the jawline where the bone is. And yeah, it was very painful, a lot of mess, and they'd done a root canal as well. So, and I also looked a bit like a one-sided hamster.
Wow.
Yeah, a mountain of pain. And I had to drive back, and was not an easy journey, but it became very easy after you worked the Huna magic.
And it was really just a couple of minutes. It wasn't any, we didn't do a massive amount of stuff. We didn't do a lot of transformation work. It was really just, let's do it right then and there. You were on the road, and within a couple of minutes, you were like, yeah, I'm fine. I can drive now.
Yeah.
So that was a really really interesting kind of experience to have. And we've had a lot of synchronicities where people will say they need a particular amount of money. That was actually Amana, and she needed the money for a tax bill, didn't know where she's going to get the money from. We did some Huna over the phone. We did some access consciousness over the phone because I just introduced it at the MBS. And so I said, well, hey, phone me up this evening. Let me do a session with you. A couple of days later, she got a check for £826 from the Inland Revenue with some sort of backdated tax thing that she didn't even know anything about. So she used the money from the Inland Revenue to pay the Inland Revenue. So we've had some really, incredible things happen with that. Introduced when I became qualified in it in 2013, then started providing people with a copy of their soul plan report, because it's just a really brilliant way. It's almost like having a blueprint of your life in terms of showing you some of the things that you've been through, giving you a sense of what specifically you can do to change those things when you get into doing a full soul plan reading, over and above the soul plan report, and then also looking at ways to develop in the future. So that became kind of a regular. Also took people on a journey through future life progression. So the picture you can see here is me with Anne Gersh. Some of you may know her. She's the creator of future life progression. So that one was fantastic in terms of, playing with those neurological connections and temporal lobes. And again, my clients have had some really crazy cool things happen with that, where they've seen things in their future life progression session, like the stone house on a hill with 2 entrances, one through which the public can enter. Following year, my client moved into a stone house on a hill, white stone house, and it was the white stone house, 2 entrances, one through which the public can enter. A client saw a vision of a man called Paul who works with high net worth individuals, saw the suit he was wearing, saw the color of his tie and his matching handkerchief, saw his socks and his shiny shoes. A couple of weeks later, she's at a meeting. This guy makes a beeline for her wearing the exact outfit. His name was Paul. He worked with high net worth individuals. So, we've had some really fantastic things, also taking you guys on an archetypal journey. So if anyone is watching this and they're kind of feeling stuck about, sense of direction, what's next, or maybe you feel that you're being called to do something new and you're not quite sure how to move on and get clarity, the archetypal profile is brilliant for doing that. And one of the years we took people through the kind of the soul transformation and core issue therapy process. So there has been a lot over the years. Gina, do you remember this one? Let me find this one. Do you remember this?
Yes, all the crystals, the wonderful crystals. That's John, isn't it?
It's well remembered. Yeah, that's John. And I just said to John, can I borrow a few crystals, please? I just want to have them in the room just for the energy. And I said, if you want to buy them, is it okay? And he went, yeah, sure. And he just let me he didn't even look at what I was taking. He's like, yeah, just have whatever you want. I went back to John. I went, I've got bad news, good news and bad news. I said, I haven't got any crystals to return to you. And he went, his face was like, huh? And I went, but I have got a load of money, because people just bought them. So that was fantastic. So Gina, do you want to just take us on a little tour of what you have done through the years in terms of MBS?
Indeed. Crystal, strangely enough, I've never brought my crystal ball along, and maybe that's something I should think about doing. It's very, very heavy, not huge, and it's a milky quartz one, so you can't see through it. But the energy of it, the way people react whenever they hold it, because it's a milky quartz, so it's about clearing up what isn't clear to you. So I've used that over the years. I've had it 20 years now, which is a bit scary. In fact, 22 years if we consider the age I turned last month. So that's been good. The tarot cards, I've been working with those probably since I was about 15, 16. And what I love about cards is, number one, you can create your own, which you and I are both doing, and I'm on my 4th deck now. The ability to just tune in, because everything is energy, whatever you're working with, whether it is crystals, whether it is pendulums, whether it is cards, even palmistry. One of my favorites has got to be tea leaf readings, because they, apart from the fact you have a wonderful day of a group of people brought together to have tea, cream teas with, scones and the clotted cream and the jam and real proper tea leaves, because that's where the magic is. You can't use you can use tea bags, but the leaves from a tea bag do not read as well as leaves that have come from a box of fresh tea leaves. And the stories they tell, it's quite extraordinary. And that's been great fun over the years. Palmistry.
Gina, just a thought. Yeah. Do you want to, because of course we have tea and coffee in the room. Do you want to bring a pot of tea and give us a demo, maybe?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah,
maybe just pick someone. You can't do a demo for everyone, a reading for everyone, but maybe you pick someone in the room who's willing, who actually likes a cup of tea, and see what happens. Just a thought, just a random thought. Anyway, as you were, carry on.
I've made a note of it, actually, so that I do a reminder for myself on new things to bring to MBS. The interesting thing from that picture, the only thing I have never I started to work with them, was the runes. And this is, for me, an interesting energy. Over the years, there have been certain things as a psychic and a clairvoyant I cannot do. And that is cross territory that has been areas of witches' covens. There is a field, I went to stay with some friends of mine in Wales, and they were cutting across this common. And no matter how hard I tried, I could not walk across this without falling over. And that was backwards and forwards, as well as sideways. And I then went back and walked all the way around. And as we were walking around, there was this very, very attractive sweetie shop, an old curiosity sweetie shop. And I thought, for some reason, because it looked like it was Henry VIII Tudor, because it was the white with the black wood. I thought, I'm just going to pop in there and see if they've got some, strangely enough, sherbet lemons came to mind. And sure enough, they had, but the owner was a lovely, lovely old lady, and she and her husband had owned the sweet store for nearly 64 years. And I just said to her, I'm very curious, have you been here very long? She said, oh, yes, we've been here for, in a Welsh Wales accent, which I'm not able to conjure up today. There was a witch's coven that was active in that field, and I couldn't cross it. So it's very strange. So going back to the runes, I was given a set of runes and I couldn't keep hold of them. They would jump out of my hands every time I rolled them. It was like they were very stubborn and had fallen into concrete. They just roll once and get stuck there. And it didn't matter if I flicked them, they wouldn't be. So I decided runes were not meant for me. And I think that's a really good aspect to look on life. sometimes we knock our head against a brick wall to try and get something to work with us or for us to work with it, when in actual fact, energetically, we're not lined up with it. One of my other favorites is the pendulum. Been utilizing one of those for a long time. And I use pendulums, which I share with other people, that it's really good for you to use it as a checking modality. If you've got a question or you've got an answer in your head, but you're not 100% sure of it, utilizing a pendulum really helps. So yes, been doing all of that for
absolutely. And you also, you know, as part of this, you kind of took us on a journey through you know, some of the crystals and ways that you kind of use it, and you know, the write and burn, which has also become a really big part of the workshop as well.
Yes, that is true. And again, that's about the energy. When we write something out, we make it real, we bring it into the real world so that we have proof and evidence. When it's negative energy, and I would always prefer and ask people to write with a pen rather than type it up on a computer. When you do it through a pen, number one, it's very old fashioned, and it's the earliest form of communication that we used that was of a written, not verbal form. The energy comes down through the arm into the pen, and the body, the unconscious mind, the spirit sees it coming out on the paper and has that awareness it is no longer residing in the system. One of our clearing energies is fire. And when fire burns very black and very dark, or takes a long time to burn, it's because the energy is being cleansed and cleared and transmuted. So utilizing anything along the write and burn, or the other thing to do is to put it in water, preferably salt water, out to sea, being very mindful of the creatures that live in the sea. You can put paper in there and watch the inks disappear, and you pull the paper out and the energy of what you had been written on those pages has disappeared. So that's another methodology. But as I don't live by the sea, I don't tend to use that one very often.
And you've also taken us on some very interesting journeys in terms of looking at the spirit and kind of how, you know, people can get more connected, which is always fascinating.
Yes, that is very true. And it's basically because most people are not aware that our spirit doesn't actually have anywhere within the body to live. So it lives on the breath. And when someone says, oh, I can see your aura, it means they can see your true spirit. And it's usually very vibrant. It changes colors. And the interesting thing from a healing perspective, when someone works with you, whether it's hands-on or hands-off, it's got to go through your spirit energy field. And most of the healers that I know work intuitively, whatever discipline they're trained in. Our spirit will show in its aura where it's vulnerable, whether it be a physical injury, a health issue, an emotional issue. It will guide your hands, the healing energy, to that part of the body. And because it lives on the breath, the more we breathe from the solar plexus, the more energy we give our spirit and can feed it. And you can play with your energy too, sending it out. I think the furthest I've got mine to go is just over or just under half a mile, because we tried it in Spain with a friend of mine. And focusing your attention on someone who's a long way away, and just through energetic thought, influencing them to turn around and look. And it's amazing how often you can get it to do that. And that's just about focus and doing it with positive, loving intent. So yes, I do love playing with energy. I like anything that's connected to the aura.
Absolutely. And I've had instances where I've worked with, you know, clients in Australia. They don't know what I'm doing, but they're on my mind. And if we're in a coaching program, I'll just send them some energy and I'll get an email saying, did you do some huna today? Because they feel it and they've got no idea of the time zone or where I am and what I'm doing, and they feel it. So, you know, that's always amazing. And, you know, we've also had some journeys with you also through kind of past lives. If you just wanted to say a few words about that as well before we start looking at the influences.
Absolutely. It's where we get our stuff from. And sometimes it's going to be in this lifetime through friends, family, genealogical lines, ancestral lines. But it's also often connected to past lives. So if you had a very sudden death, as in the picture there, say Roman times, and you have senses or feelings of pain in certain areas, that can connect back to a past life. And utilizing a variety of techniques, and I use a whole load of them, soul retrieval being one of them, past life regression. There are a lot of different techniques, timeline therapy that you and I trained with when we first met in 2000. Such a lovely long distance, just a short while ago. You can go back in time to get the learning, to complete and fulfill unfinished business. Anything that's unresolved, you can react it out, rewrite it, rescript it. Unrequited love, understanding what the commitment was back then, but maybe preventing love in this lifetime. So, and there is, in my world, no such thing as untimely death. When we are meant to go, we go. If we're meant to stay, we stay. But back in those days where that awareness wasn't with us, per se, with a global consciousness, back then, lots of people would say they died before their time, far too young, or taken inappropriately. And yet, when you go back and understand the journey and the agreement that that lifetime entailed, then it was exactly as it was meant to be.
And that's interesting. I'm just remembering, do you remember when I did that? I'm going to do some more of them this year, actually. I think my first one's going to probably be Greg Braden. But I did my In Conversation With series, and I got you to talk about the celebrity deaths. The George Michael had just died. You know, Amy Winehouse wasn't that long ago. You know, and I was just getting you to talk a little bit about. So what I'll do actually is I'll see if I can find the conversation. And for those people in the webinar, I will post that. Here it is, Ian Young and Gina Batt, instant teleseminar. So what I'll do, for those of you who are watching the webinar, what I'm going to do, because that's a whole other conversation, is I'm going to post the link. There we go. So the link is in the webinar room if you wanted to listen to that, that teleseminar about, you know, what appears to, on the face of it, be those untimely deaths and all the rest of it. And then here, Gina's taken it. We're also talking about the idea of addiction, because a lot of the celebrities had died of, you know, kind of drug overdoses, things like that. But that's the link is now in the webinar room. So Gina, while we're on the subject then, do you want to then start to transition into looking at what some of the influences have been for this year, 2018, for people who are listening to this in real time?
Absolutely. 2018 was an 11. Now, 11 is a very, very powerful number. It's one of the master numbers, 11, 22, 33. And they're masters because you double up the energy. Now, 11 is all about intuition. So what's been happening for a lot of people this year, and clients who've been coming through my doors, the challenges with regarding to gut feelings, their instincts, and their own intuitive development. What it does is it brings up the ability to, which brings up questions of, did I really just sense that, see that, feel that, hear that, know that? Where did that come from? I don't understand why. So if you have been challenged this year with anything that is connected to your intuition, it's because it's an 11 year, and that's what will happen. If you have an interest in developing intuition, this is the year to do it. And I know we've only got basically 1 3/4 months left to do that. But if you wanted to, you would be able to expand and ask your own unconscious mind, your higher self, your team, to communicate with you in a comfortable, safe way. And if you have any issues, questions, or do just give me a shout, and I will happily help on that front, because I also teach.
Gina, I've just got an idea. Sorry, this is going to stop. Apologies to the audience now, because this is what Gina and I are like. We'll be talking. I go, oh my God, I've got an idea. And she'll go, I've got an idea. So just as an aside, just talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes. Gina, what do you reckon then, if like doing, because you know with the higher self therapy from Huna,
yeah,
could we possibly then do a piece where I'd take people on a kind of a guided journey to connect to their higher self?
Yes.
And we kind of have a download of a kind of a key message. How does that sound?
Yep, that sounds very, very good. We could also ask one of their key team spirit guides to be very, very present and share some information with them. So
Actually, I did that on the membership group workshop, the first one I ran, because I do a free workshop for people in my membership group, and I did an angelic circle where we asked all of the archangels to come in, so people could call on particular archangels that they feel an affinity with. Even as I say it now, I can feel goosebumps, but people could feel, and some people could see them in the room, and we asked them to come in and form a circle. So that could, do you think your team would be up for joining it as well?
Judging by the way the phones have started to chat, I think that's probably a yes.
I was just saying, I can hear. I think I wasn't sure if it's a whistling from my end, but that's your phone. So yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, I think they're up for it.
Yes.
So I think that could be really fantastic. So have people connect to their own higher self. Call in the Avaiku as well. For those of you who don't know, the Avaiku are the Huna guides. And then Gina calling in your team as well and calling in their team. I think that could be a really fantastic exercise. So I've just written it down as a note to self for MBS.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Cool. So that was this year, 2018. 2019 is a 3. And the energy from that is about, first off, which always comes to mind, the power of 3, which, if you want to put it into a very physical human way, we talk about the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the higher self. So that's a trinity of 3. The Father, Son, Holy Ghost, depending on your religion, that is a holy trinity of 3. When you look at pyramid energy, that has the power of 3. So, or triangles as well, which the sound that resonates from them again produces a lot of magical energy. This being a 3-year, it's also about creativity. And another interesting one, 2019, is really strong on self-expression and clarity and purpose, understanding who you are and why you're here, effectively. What is it that you need to be doing for yourself? It also has the essence of relationships, which the first relationship we connect to is with ourselves. Because the other aspect of the 3 is it's the first number on the mystic line, which is 369 numerically. So you're looking at things beyond the normal senses, the supernatural. I can't think of the other parallel. I can't think of the word. My brain went out for a few minutes. I'm sure it'll be back shortly. It allows us to sort out companionship, communication with ourselves, understanding what we're feeling, what we're thinking, the direction that we're going in. So 2019 is very, very much a year of self-search, clarity of the self, getting onto your pathway if you're not already on it, to find it, and if you are already on it, to expand it, develop it, and grow it. So 2019 is actually a very, very mega powerful year. So, but it's all about the self rather than lots and lots of others. It's all about you, how you feel, how you're thinking, how you are growing, what you want to achieve. And it's going to break down into 4 lots of 3. So you'll have the first 3 months, the second 3 months. The most powerful 3 months will be the third 3 months. And then the icing on the cake, the cream, as it were, topping, is that 4th 3 months that will conclude the year. So that's sort of what's going on.
All right, Gina, question for you then. This is one for a diary moment.
Right, okay.
Can we, at the start of Q3, for the people who are attending the workshop this year, can we do a teleseminar for them to help them make the most of those energies, do you think?
Absolutely. Because although it'll be individually specific, we can do it generically in a way that allows each individual to understand what each month is going to represent to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I've actually got my calendar for next year, my witch's calendar. So when I finish this call, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a note on that calendar, and then we will touch base kind of, August time. And maybe we can just do a quick, your phones are like, yeah. I love it. And then maybe we can do a quick touch base with people who attended this year, as we kind of transition into that. So that would be really fabulous and cool. So Gina, from your wonderful team, is there anything they want to share with, let's say, the collective energy, both of the people who are here live, the people who signed up and registered that will be catching the replay, and even people who haven't signed up that then might come across the replay at a later date? If you were kind of thinking about, influences for the energy of people who'd be drawn to this, what would you or your team like to share?
The words that I get in my head are along the line of being aware, opening up your awareness, being comfortable in knowing what intuition is, how it's working for you, how it's developing. When we know what's coming, we feel very safe and secure. It's the unknown that scares us. And yet, when we give ourselves permission to trust what we know is coming, we do get a positive heads up. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, cool. I'm just trying to, I know one year, and it was the year, it might have been 2015, I did a tarot reading on the as we in the UK transitioned into the new year. And I said it was all about a leap of faith. The very next day, about 12 hours later, Doreen Virtue did a reading saying the year is starting about with the leap of faith. So as you're talking, it sounds like it's a little bit like that there's a spin and another nuance on that.
It's heightened trust.
Yeah.
If you combine faith and trust together, the only third element that you need in there is belief. And it's self-belief rather than global belief. Because if you believe in you, you have full trust, full faith. Anything that you connect to, the universe is going to be willing to share it and help you get it, achieve it, draw it in, connect to it. If you give yourself
no, go on, carry on.
If you give yourself permission and allow it to happen. What has crossed my threshold a lot this year with my lovely, amazing, wonderful, beautiful client has been that challenge to trust what's going on. And rather than fear the failure, the element has aimed more about fearing being big, fearing the success, fearing having it all. Because how will they cope if they've got it all? And what is there to strive for if you have potentially what you believe is having it all? It's when you look at it and you think, actually, you know what? If I have it all, I'm sure there's more that I can do to help others have it all. So again, it's sending the vibration on and passing it on, sharing it, doing more with it. We're all connected anyway. So it's about getting a cleaner, stronger connection with others as well.
Okay.
The golden threads that I do on the balance to the silver cord of life is the golden threads of connection. And that's where we go out into the universe and connect to individuals or energy that's required. So, yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. What I might have to do, I might run you through, or not now, don't worry everyone, we'll be here till 10 o'clock otherwise, but what I might do with you, Gina, I ran an intuition supercharger workshop a couple of years ago, and I've also got the synchronicity supercharger. It's a 28-day e-coaching program. So what I might talk to you about is some of the elements I teach on there, and just see if there's anything that will be really nice to bring into the MBS for this year.
Okay.
So we'll talk about, actually, maybe what I'll do, I'll put it on my when I put it on the memory sticks when I come down this week. We can run through it and I'll show you what I teach, and then we can see what we want to pull out from there. So that'll be really fantastic.
Ooh.
Wow. So an interesting year. It feels like the know thyself year.
Yes.
Which is one of the exercises we had in the membership group. And That was always an interesting one. I did a few years ago, Ignite Your Brilliance. And one of the very first exercises, which really just threw everyone for a loop, was just the question, who are you? And I wanted to know beyond, you know, mother, sister, brother, father, friend, lover, parent, teacher. I wanted to know what was beyond that. People were freaking out because they didn't actually know the answer to that question.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was interesting. I had, you know, I'm not kidding you, Gina. Because I saw a couple of messages come through from Messenger. I had emails. I had somebody phone me up and say they were actually in tears when they read it because they realized they didn't know who they were. And so it was a really, and I was just like, oh, that's a good, that, you know, so I just sit, yes, I call it make them up. You would call it channeling. But I just thought, well, that would be a good exercise to start with. People were just like gone, which was in and of itself very enlightening, to say the least. So, wow. All right. So, Gina, are we ready? I think what we might do now then, I'm going to do a quick sort of angel tarot reading.
Okay.
With the intention, I'm going to pull a card first of all. And so for those of you who are watching the video, these are the cards that I'm going to be using. Let me show you the box, I know some people would like to know. So it's the Archangel Power. The way that I do it, because I do this every month for Tarot Tuesday in my membership group, so anyone who would like a free reading, so we'll be doing it tomorrow in fact, but the way I choose the cards is I have them face down, so I can't see what I'm choosing. As you can see, they all look exactly the same from the back. So I'm going to give them a shuffle and just really asking, for those of you here, we talked about the whole thing around permission. So if you're interested in kind of energetically being involved in this reading, you just kind of give permission. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a card first of all, which is really going to be just something to think about, some influences for bringing this year to a close. And then I'm going to pull a second card to just say, okay, what are we thinking about? What are we looking about? What are we thinking about looking at, and what's going to be relevant for 2019. So, right. I'm going to go with that one there, whatever it is. That's going to be our 2018. And give them another little shuffle. So now we want something for 2000. Immediately, I like the look of you there. So I'm going to go with that one for 2019. And I might even pick a third one as a confirmation card. But let's go with what we've got here first of all. So the card in terms of rounding off 2000, you guys have seen it, I haven't yet, but I'll hold it up again just in case I flashed it too quickly before. It says peace. Yes. I'll get the light off it. What it says on this card is release the past. There is a more enriching future coming. Let go and let God. And so, you know, what MBS is all about for us is letting go of the old emotional baggage. When I showed you that slide from where it started in 2018, it was about this. It was about releasing the past, letting go of the old emotional baggage, releasing whatever is holding you back, releasing whatever is stopping and blocking you. Because when you can do that, that is when you can truly have a sense of inner peace and inner calm. And from my perspective, when you are in that place and that space of peace, that is where you can hear your intuition. That is where you can get a deeper sense of connection, because your energy field and your mind, your mind, your body, your spirit, and your soul is no longer cluttered. So I would say for those of you watching this, what you may want to do as you think about transitioning into the new year is asking yourself, what is it, if anything, that is stopping and blocking and holding you back? What is it that is still active from the past that it will be useful for you to release, and that it's time for you to release? The way I describe it is like there are sometimes like old food in the fridge that has passed its sell-by date. You look at it and go, what are you still doing here? It's time to clear that out. So the energy as we kind of round off 2018 is very much about releasing the past, because then you can clear the way for everything that's coming. So when Gina was just talking about the whole thing about faith and trust and belief and kind of belief in self, when you don't have all of your old fears and insecurities weighing you down, you can be much more excited about the future, and you can be in an energetic space where you do invite something far more enriching in, rather than, you know, metaphorically speaking, pushing it away. So that's the the kind of 2018. Let's see what 2019 is. I like it. So again, you've probably seen it, but I might have flashed it too quickly, but here it is. This is my boy, Archangel Michael, who always likes to get in on the act. And this is the world card. So it says a very happy ending, exclamation mark, coming full circle, spiritual growth and insight. So Gina, very much with what you've been talking about in terms of self-growth, the spirit, having your sense of insight, it's very much about that, which I think is just perfect. Michael. And one of the things that stands out to me today as I kind of look at the card is he's carrying kind of what I would call his sword of light. And I would definitely say this one almost is a little nudge and reminder, if you have released the past, so from a, let's say a ho'oponopono perspective, where you've cut the energetic cause and connections, that is the thing that really now allows you to go in and embrace this whole wonderful kind of thing, almost like the world is your oyster. So Gina was just saying about, you know, being okay to be successful, being okay to be big. And when that's saying the world is your oyster, one of the things I will invite you to do is just think about, when I say the world is your oyster, how do you feel? What do you think? Are you like, yeah, sure, of course it is? Or are you like, oh, if only? Or just notice what immediately comes up. When I say the world is your oyster in 2019, the world is your oyster, notice your reaction to that. If your reaction is one of excitement and joy, brilliant. If it's anything other than that, in terms of, I wish, it doesn't seem possible, oh, well, that sounds good, but how do you do it? Well, I've tried XYZ before, then that I think is going to be pretty telling. And that might then go back. Well, it will definitely go back, and it will help you to go, okay, what is it I need to release such that I can be in that place and be in that space where I'm allowing myself to have that spiritual growth, and where you're now open and energetically ready to get those deeper insights. So yeah, I like those two. Gina, any thoughts on those two cards?
We're noticing the number 21, that's a 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
17 is what was the number of the first one?
Number 13.
13, that's a 4. So that's all about family, connections, relationships, and wholeness.
Which is what you just been talking about.
Yeah. So no accidents, just energy working in perfect harmony.
Don't you love it when a plan comes together? And you've all just seen me choose those cards. There was no, you know, it was completely random. You all saw that. So I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm just going to write those down. 13, we had peace, and that was 2018. And 21, the world is 2000. I love it, Gina. This is just too cool for school.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, so Annika says, bring it on. Ashley's sort of laughing here at the 2018 card. I love the cards. They're just, oh, Gina, I did what somebody got me, lovely Kate Thomas, who actually, this is her pendant here. She worked, Angeli Jewelry is her company. This is my Archangel Michael pendant. He likes to stay close, so he's basking on the desk. She got me these cards from Banksy.
Right.
Somebody's taken all of the Banksy images and put them onto tarot cards.
Oh,
you know,
right.
Banksy, the street artist.
Oh, right.
I did a Facebook Live with those last week, and somebody's grandmother came through, and she was speaking to me in a way that I don't normally speak. And at one point I apologized and said, I'm really sorry, I don't normally speak like this. And I was just saying what she was saying. And I said to the woman I was reading for, someone in America, I don't know, I never met her, we're just Facebook friends. I said, who calls you baby? Because the woman kept saying baby, and she was very specific phrasing, which I said, and she went, that's what my granny Gracie used to call me. It was just the coolest thing ever. So the cards definitely have a wonderful way of connecting in with the energy of everyone that's there. So Gina, from your perspective and your team, I'm going to do, when I'm thinking about the Huna energy, I'm going to be thinking about old energies, helping people who are listening to this start to release some of the old emotional baggage, things that it's time and it's ready and it's right and it's ecological for them to start letting go of. What would you like to put into the mix that we focus on with the Huna and we focus on with your team in terms of some energy clearing?
Freedom for spirit and soul to have permission to receive all their heart's desires. It's that permission thing. It's come up so often around everyone that I've had the joy and the privilege of working with this year. It's that freedom of choice and the permission to enjoy and have what you truly want. Okay. Utilizing my lovely pendulum, which unfortunately I can't show you, but I'm using one today with
Brilliant.
Well,
I just about to say, you and your team get going. I'm going to be doing the bells and whistles noisy version of Huna. For those of you who've seen Gina work, her pendulum will be going 10 to the dozen. Her team will be kind of working. Her phones might even join in as well, which you may or may not hear over and above the Huna. For those who haven't experienced Huna before, let me just see if I've got anything that I could very quickly show you. But for those who haven't experienced this version of Huna before, if you've only heard the words, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. Huna also works with the energy, it works with the breath, and it works with symbols. And so when I'm doing Huna, particularly when I'm doing, let's say, remote work with my clients who are around the globe, here we go. Perfect. So these are just some of the Huna symbols that I'm going to be using, and the way that you deliver the Huna, just so it's not a shock and surprise for those who've never heard it or experienced before, you draw the symbols on the breath and you deliver the symbols on the breath. So this is what it would sound like. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to choose like a menu, I call it a round of Huna. So I'm going to choose some of the symbols that feel like they would be kind of most relevant for the collective of people who are here. And also my intention is that if you're watching this in the future, you receive the benefits of that. And you guys who've ever listened to my kind of MP3s and teleseminars will know that the energy travels. And I've had people listen to things 5 years later and still feel it exactly as the way people experienced it in the moment live. So rest assured, if you're watching the replay, you'll still get the benefit of what both myself and Gina are doing, if you give yourself permission to do so. So Gina, are you ready?
I'm off and running. So yeah, pendulum going fairly nuts, so which is cool.
Here we go. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, Gina, one of the questions we have while I think of it is, Annika was asking in terms of the tea is, I'm presuming it's got to be loose leaf, number one, but she said, is chamomile tea okay?
Absolutely, any tea. It's all teas work. If they are a slightly larger cut rather than from a tea bag, they are much easier to work with. But I've used infusions, so you've got all different sized leaves with strawberry infusions or various other different multi-blend fusions. So they all work. And it's good fun. I will dig out my teapot, my proper teapot, for it. So yes, good thing.
Well, I always say we like to do something a bit different each year, as well as the old staples, as I call it, the kind of the things. And also for those of you who have attended before and you are coming back again this year, because we often have lots of returners, I would love for you to just think about what have your favorites been, almost like the People's Choice Awards, in terms of what would you like to. Now, just to tell you, we're gonna do the HUNA, we're gonna do the Access Consciousness, so that's definite. Gina, what is definitely on the radar for you? I'm guessing the Game of Life, is that coming back this year?
Absolutely, it most definitely is. I'm still toying around with Silver Cord of Life, with Write and Burn. There's a variety. There's a new methodology which I will share with you, but it runs along the same vein as Write and Burn, but it's severing all ties. It's cutting the ties that bind us. So it's nice to bring new stuff that is a different aspect of what we've done before. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. For those of you who wonder what the Game of Life is, this is a deck of cards, a beautiful deck of cards that Gina created specifically for the Mind, Body, Spirit Energy Fest. So you have a little flavor of what it's about on the screen at the moment, in terms of the roles and the characters that we play and the roles that we take on also in other people's lives. And then, much like you'd have the different suites for a tarot deck, Gina has created a number of suits for her deck as well. So if you haven't experienced it before, it's always quite an experience. And I remember that year we had somebody who didn't want to play the game, and then she turned out being the most kind of flamboyant, in the group, and she won one of the prizes, didn't she?
Indeed. Day two. It's always a good game to play twice. First is the introduction to it and to get familiar and comfortable with it. Second time, let rip. Just go for it. Play 100% full out. And that way you get some benefit from it, which is good.
Absolutely. And so for those of you who are returning, if there's something in particular, and I know that's why we kind of gave you an overview today, just a little reminder of some of the things that we've done, but if there's something that particularly sticks in your mind and it was powerful for you and you really enjoyed it and you'd like us to kind of bring it back this year, then drop me an email. It's Marilyn, MARILYN @transformationstm.com. So trance is TRANCE, formations, F for Freddy, ORMATIONS, TM as in trademark. So Marilyn @transformationstm.com. If you're watching this video webinar rather than listening, you can see the spelling of transformations on the top right hand side of the PowerPoint slides there. So drop me an email. That would be fantastic. Also, if any of you wanted to join us for this year, let me see, I think I have put it in there. Let's do that. So if any of you wanted to join us, I've just kind of put a link into the webinar room where you can get further details about that, but it's www.mbsenergyfest.eventbrite.com. Actually, for those of you watching the webinar, you can see the offer there, but so for those of you watching this video webinar, the offer that I've kind of just put into the group is for 20% off if you wanted to join us. That's going to be available for the next couple of days, give people a chance to watch the replay, and the discount code for that is WEB, WEB 20, so WEB 20. And what I'm about to do is put into the group a completely different code for those of you who are there live. The code I've just put into the room will be valid for the next 24 hours. I'm not going to say it out loud because then it's not fair for the people who were live. But the code I've just put into the room, if you wanted to join us, that will give you a higher percentage off. And I've just put that into the chat of the webinar. But for those of you who are listening to the replay, if you put in WEB20, that will take 20% off the price. And that's either for attending the workshop only, or if you wanted to attend the workshop and the speaker lunch. So that's there. But if you've got some favorites, let me know and we will see what we can do. And I just want to say, kind of, first of all, thank you so much for attending. For those of you who Annika says it's so difficult to choose. I know. This is what Gina and I go through every year. You know, we kind of go, right, what are we going to do? And we now started, because we've got, 7 years worth of stuff. We actually both sit and look through the slides of what we've done over the years, just to make sure there's no repetition. But also then to go, okay, as we go through it, what really worked? What was it, as we used to say in NLP terms, what was the difference that made the difference? So I'm going to be doing the same again this year as I kind of prepare and get myself prepared. But, if there's something in particular where you go, actually, I really enjoyed that, then, we can most certainly incorporate it. And Gina, maybe what we'll do this year, I'm maybe going to build in a segment of time where we don't have anything planned.
Okay.
As in, we're not, normally we fill it to the corners. Maybe we have a segment where we know what we will do if there's nobody chooses something.
Yeah.
But maybe what I'll do is I'm going to leave a window, and that window will be, put it out to the group. Is there something you really want to do from everything we've been through, everything we've done thus far? So we'll probably do it on day 2.
Yeah.
And if nobody comes up with anything, then you and I will know what we will do. But we are fine. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think that's what we'll do that this year. We're going to build in a free segment which the group can choose what they would love to do, because it might be that we've covered something which then leads on to something else that we weren't planning to do. But we both have enough skills that we can be completely agile and adapt to the group. So that's what we do. So for those of you who are watching live, first of all, thank you so much. Now, if you have any further questions, any further queries, anything you want to say to myself and Gina, type that into the chat now. And for those of you who are watching this as a replay, whether you're watching it, I'll put a copy of this on Facebook. I will also add it to YouTube. So feel free to leave a comment in either the comments thread on Facebook or in the comments on YouTube, and we will cycle back and get back to you. And says thank you so much for the webinar. Ashley says thank you. Oh, you're most welcome. But we just thought it'd be a nice warm up to get the energy moving. For God, it's coming down to 3 weeks time. I can't believe the year's gone this quickly. So Gina, is there anything that you wanted to say in closing?
Just thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us again in December if you are able. And thanks to Marilyn too.
Well, thank you, Gina, for joining me. Thank you for everyone who was here live and playing along in the chat room. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to watch the replay, and really want to say thank you to everyone who has attended workshops, signed up for client sessions, shared information about what myself and what Gina does, because without people attending and without people sharing their experience, we could not do what we do. So, it's massively important. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thus far, if you're watching this in real time, Gina and I started on this path at the same time 18 years ago, just gone in October. And the reason I'm still doing this is because people show up and people sign up and people participate and people share their transformations with others, and also if you do know someone who could benefit from what we are doing and benefit from this workshop, then, feel free to share this replay with them. Feel free to share the MBS link. Actually, let me find it. Actually, I've got to figure, I think the chat is visible after the webinar. So what I'm going to do, I'll just call up the MBS link as well. I will drop that into the webinar room, mbsenergyfest.eventbrite.com. But, feel free to share this recording. Feel free to share the link with them. If you can't make it or it's not for you, you may know someone else who would benefit. So thank you all for joining us. For those who are joining us, it always takes place the first weekend in December. Gina and I will be having a serious talk this year about whether or not we want to run another one next year. So we'll keep you posted on that. But, you know, we've done it for the last 7 years. If you kind of go, sounds cool, my suggestion would be join us this year, just in case, because we're going to have a serious talk after the workshop. But, you know, first weekend in December, if you want to join us this year, it will be amazing to have you. And we have, we've got now 3 people who are traveling and going to be abroad, so they can't make it. So we have 6 spaces available if you would like to join us. So thank you, Gina, for your input, as always wonderful.
Thank you, you too.